All right, today guys, I'm going to show you how to make an Andy Warhol pop art effect with your photographs. To make an Andy Warhol picture in the style of this Che Guevara picture, or there was one he did of Marilyn Monroe right there, I'm going to have you use a photo with someone that you chose. So use a picture of a person or people, make sure they have faces, make sure they're not cartoon people, make sure they're not wearing sunglasses or something like that to cover their face. The first thing you're going to need to do is cut out your people from their background. So if you go around with the magnetic lasso, like you remember how to do, double click, and I've already got one already started over here, so use the quick mask. That's the quick mask right there. You are going to take black and white paint. Black paint, if you remember, adds to the mask area. White paint, as you remember, takes away from the mask area, so use that. And get your photo cut out just right. Need a little more black paint right there. And that's it. We need to separate the photo from the background. So the quickest ways to do that, there's two, are to copy and paste it and delete the background, or to invert the selection and then delete the background that way. First thing, I want to unlock the background layer. Secondly, let's try the inversion. Let's go to select and tell it to be inverse. What that does is reverses the selection. It selects everything outside of my current selection instead of everything inside. So when I inverse my selection, now it's selecting just the background, and if I hit the backspace or delete key on my keyboard, it's gone. I'm going to deselect that by either going to select, deselect, or hitting Control D. And then I need to make this canvas 4 times its size. Four times is as big as this, so rather 4 panels instead of 1 panel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Image and I'm going to go to Canvas Size. Now my current canvas is 6.375 inches by 4.778 inches. I don't feel like doing a lot of math with decimal places, so in my mind I'm just going to round that up. So let's just assume for a minute that instead of 6.375, this is actually 7. And instead of 4.778, this is actually 5. That's going to make it a lot easier to double, and that's going to make it a lot easier to place my rulers. So actually to double 7 and 5, what I'm going to do is make this 14 and 10. What I'm shooting for is something twice as wide and twice as tall as my current document. So if you say OK to that, then you should be able to zoom out and see that it is rather large. Let me zoom out a little more. I'm going to pull up my rulers. That's Control R or View Rulers right here. And when I see that, you can see that my 0 point right here is set to the corner. And when I pull a ruler down, I'm just going to click right here where the numbers are and drag down, and you see it pulls a line down for me. Just click on the numbers, drag down, and if you remember, I made this 12 inches tall. So I'm going to pull this down, 14. So I'm going to pull this down to, no, I apologize. I made it 10 inches tall, 14 inches wide. So 10 inches tall, half of that is 5. I'm going to pull a ruler down to 5. Now I'm going to pull one out because this is 14 inches wide. I'm going to pull it from here out to 7. I take my people and I move them up to, with the move tool, this corner. And I'm going to focus my energy on this corner right now. Couple of things I need to do. I want to desaturate them, make them black and white. So that's Image, Adjustments, Desaturate, or if you like a shortcut, Control, Shift, and the letter U. That desaturates them. Next, I'm going to bring up the contrast so that it's really, really dark and really, really light. All the dark stuff is super dark and all the light stuff is super light. So if you go to Image, Adjustments, Brightness, Contrast, you can pull the contrast up. And you can pull the brightness up or down depending on what your photo started out as. I'm going to do that twice. Image, Adjustments, Brightness, Contrast, and pull the contrast up again. That's going to help us later on. Next, I'm going to apply a filter on here. So if you go up to Filter at the top, you will see that there's a filter gallery. And in that filter gallery, I'm going to find something called the cutout filter. There's a lot of filters. The cutout filter is the one that makes it kind of right for the next piece of this project. Each photo is different, so you may need to adjust your number of levels. That basically is how many shades of gray are in use. 2 shades of gray, really, several more. You need to adjust it so you can still see eyeballs and noses and stuff. Mine needs about 7, maybe 8. Edge simplicity. This is kind of a fun one to play with because if you pull it too far one direction, it looks like that. So make sure you can still tell these are faces. You are trying to put a filter on it so it looks slightly more artistic, but you don't want it to look not like people anymore. Edge fidelity is a similar thing. So there we go. Happy with that. If you wanted to do the cutout filter twice, you sure could. If, like me, you've got one part of this where you're like, gosh, that should be darker, you can go ahead and just do something like use the burn tool and darken up that eye. That's fine. Oh, that's too far. Little too far. Darken that up and that's better. So I've got this how I want it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a rectangle behind it and I'm going to put some sort of color overlay underneath it. There's a whole thing I'm going to do. I'm going to show it to you. So the first thing I want to do is get my rectangle tool. That's hide it out right here. The rectangle tool is right here. And whatever color is the fill is the color that's going to go into that rectangle. Sorry about that. I'm going to just draw a rectangle in this entire corner of my document. And you see I've got those rulers there for a reason. I'm going to pull it below layer 0. And now I've got the background. Now I want to select these people and make a paint bucket to fill exactly the shape of them. It's kind of complicated, but you see in a second. If I click on layer 0 and I go to select and I tell it to load selection, it's going to select perfectly around everything on layer 0. Now I need to make a new layer. If you've never made a new layer before, it's right down next to the trash can. Create a new layer, or you can go to layer, new layer. Doesn't matter which way you do it, but you do need a new layer because you are going to dump a bucket of paint on that layer. Paint bucket's right here. And I'm going to make it purple. Now I've got 3 layers. I'm going to pull layer 1 here down below layer 0. And then I'm going to go to layer 0 and I'm going to choose something else besides normal for my layer mode. So if I choose color dodge, see what it does. If I choose pin light, see what it does. You make a choice that suits your needs, whatever makes you happy. That's kind of cool. Finally, and we're almost done, I'm going to, let me see my layers panel real quick. I'm going to put all these 3 things inside of a folder. I'm going to duplicate the folder 3 times. I'm going to move those shapes around, and then I'm going to change the colors. So we're almost there. So, new folder. That's going to be my group 1. I'm going to select this, layer 0, put it in group 1. Select layer 1, put it in group 1. All these things have to go in group 1. You see how they're slightly indented? And if I hit this little twirl down arrow, it'll show me everything that's in group 1. If they get out of order, just reorder them. Make sure that the picture of the person is on top, the color that's in the shape of the person is second, and the rectangle is third. And the easiest thing in the world now is I've got my layers panel. I'm going to put it back where it goes. To right click, and let's see if I can, sorry, I didn't do it right. Right click, and we're going to duplicate the group. Duplicate group, there it is, my bad. We'll just call it group 2. And then we're going to take the move tool. Oh, I need to deselect. I'm sorry. Select, deselect, and move group. My gosh. Move group 2 over. If you don't have it selected correctly, it won't move correctly. You want to select it by hitting the first thing here and then holding shift and hitting the bottom thing here. That'll get everything. There's group 2. Easiest thing in the world now is to change the colors of stuff. So if I take my purple and turn it yellow, then I can make sure I'm on layer 1 here, take my paint bucket, changes it entirely. I've got my rectangle, and I can actually double click on the rectangle, the little icon of the rectangle. I can double click it right here, and that brings me a color picker just for that rectangle. And that's it. You're just going to right click group 2, duplicate it, call it group 3, and then everything in group 3 is selected. Your move tool is here, you move it down, and you change your colors. I'm going to pause for just a minute until I get this done. All right, so I went ahead and duplicated my layer a couple more times. So you should have 4 folders like this. You should have your 4 corners of this. If you want to go through and change stuff, you surely can. If I think that perhaps in group 4 I want to try a different filter here, I can try a different filter, or layer mode rather. Some of them are really cool. Mess with it a little bit until you get it just perfect. Have a good weekend.